The cupboard door and bathroom doors were ajar, and a handbag that had been placed on a bed was gone. Sian's heart sank. The only clues to who she was happened to be in that bag, which had now apparently been taken. It seemed to her that even in this town burglary was rife. She started to cry softly in disbelief and turned to report the matter to Rose. Could this day get any worse? She asked herself. Suddenly the sound of movement in her cupboard made her stop in her tracks and whirl around. Tears forgotten, she stared at the cupboard, listening for another sound. Silence ensued. She looked around for a hard substance with which to protect herself and found an ornament on the small table next to the door. Picking it up, she crept towards the cupboard, every step listening for danger. Her heart pounded in her throat and her brain pricked with anticipation. Slowly, she opened the cupboard door, expecting something to jump out and grab her, or some type of spirit to enter her and possess her. Dropping the ornament onto the carpet, she stood, staring into the cupboard, unblinking, until her eyes burned. Yet no matter how much she stared into the cupboard, she could not believe her eyes. Her cupboard had been filled with new clothes, new shoes, comfortable wear, summer wear, winter clothes, night clothes, even evening gowns and shoes. What? Blinking eyes, she remembered that the bathroom door had been ajar as well, and forgetting about the ornament on the carpet, she opened the doors rapidly. The bathroom had been fully stocked as well. Powders, creams, lotions, fragrances, bath and shower gels, foam baths, shampoo, conditioner, everything. What astounded her the most was that everything that was in the bathroom, every color, every scent, was the same or similar to those that she had used back home. Perturbed, she suddenly found compulsion to get out of that room and went in search of Rose to explain what had happened and possibly get some form of logical explanation. She feared that she was losing her mind. She found Rose in the living room reading a book. Rose, I don't know what happened. The doors were ajar. I was afraid. Clothes, shoes, supplies. How? Rose smiled and helped her sit on an adjacent couch. Now, dear, calm down and tell me the whole story from the beginning. Sian took a few deep breaths and told Rose about entering the room, hearing the noise, and on investigation found her cupboard full of clothing and a bathroom full of amenities as well. Oh, that explains it. That's what the prince was doing here, Rose said thoughtfully. What do you mean? I saw him as I was cooking for you two lovebirds. He walked past the kitchen window, which he never does, and I just assumed he was looking for one of the elders. So, he was in my room, and he's to blame for all these things? Rose blushed with excitement as her wonders bloomed into realization. Oh, you must have made quite an impression on him. He never does things like this, and I've known him for many, many years. Oh, and money has been left for me. The note says that it's for your account, which is cleared, by the way. And I guess with the money left, you can stay for as long as you like. Sian knew she should be grateful. She knew she should be, but anger welled up inside her. She felt so guilty about being angry. She should be thankful. But her personal space was invaded. Besides that, she was a strong, independent woman and could damn well take care of herself. Rose, could you please tell me where the prince stays? I would like to thank him for all of this and tell him how unnecessary it was, she said, struggling to hide the irritation in her voice. Behind the town hall is a wooden path through the trees. If you walk on that path for a while, you should see his house. Thank you, Rose. I'll see him right away, Sian said, heading for the door. But it's almost night time. Couldn't you wait until tomorrow morning? No, I couldn't. I just wouldn't be able to sleep if I didn't see him now. I'll be safe. Don't worry. With that, she got up and left. She remained calm and smiling in front of Rose, but inside her blood boiled. She did not need charity from others, and she would make this prince realize this. Strange things were happening to her, and she did not need insults to make her life more complicated. She had too much pride. She had too much pride. She chided herself for this, but pride or not, her privacy ought to have been respected. She passed through the main door and struggled not to slam it on her way out. The air was still warm in the twilight, but it harbored a slight chill to it. She let her hair down and wrapped it around her like a scarf. It would have to do for heat preservation for now, as she had a mission to accomplish. Swearing under her breath once again in a failed bid to release some frustration, she walked down the stairs and started walking briskly up towards the town hall. There was no one else on the streets, and even though there had been a festival earlier that day, the streets had been left impeccably clean, another surprising factor to her. She could smell spices and food in the air and realized that it was dinner time for the community. Warmed by anger and cheeks burning, she walked on, diplomatic words formulating in her brain, anger welling up in her heart, pace kept by the militaristic sound of her feet on the compacted gravel. A bit late to be going for a walk, don't you think? She stopped abruptly and turned towards Alex. She had been so engrossed in her thoughts she hadn't even seen him sitting on a bench outside his house, admiring the view of her walking towards him. I thought that you were on your way to bed, or was that just another reason to get rid of me? Alex, no, I was on my way to retiring, but I have business to take care of. It will only be a moment. It's almost dark, he said, jumping up and walking towards her. I know, she replied coldly. She did not want to have to deal with Alex right now. She had too much on her mind. Well, I'll have to walk with you then, see that you're safe. Yes, in a perfectly gentlemanly manner, but I assure you that is not necessary. My brothers have taught me about self-defense, and besides that, Alex, I'm sorry, but with the mood that I'm in at the moment, no one would dare to attack me. It would be the last thing they ever do. Alex burst out laughing. Yeah, Rose told me you were independent and not likely to be pushed around. So you two have been... never mind. Alex, listen. I'll be all right. There is no need to walk with me. I would prefer the solitude right now, actually. Alex looked beaten, which stirred her to feel slightly sorry for him. Look, Alex, I did promise to meet your parents, right? How about fetching me from Rose tomorrow morning? The wind picked up in Alex's sails again, and a smile beamed from his face. That will be super. Well, then I'll see you tomorrow then, okay? See you then. She expected him to leave, but when he didn't, she hastily made her way towards the town hall. She followed the wooden path to the entrance of the trees and felt as though she was being watched. It was probably Alex. And she felt irritation flare up again. The trees caused the area to look darker than normal, almost ominous, yet she couldn't cause this little factor to stop her. Swallowing her fear, she stepped onto the wooden path and was surprised that pale light switched on, aimed at the pathway. Motion sensor lights, she thought. Clever. The path was longer than it appeared, but finally she arrived at his house. The house appeared completely black in the fading sunlight and looked ominous, yet strangely intriguing at the same time. It was made of black stone, other than the houses in the town, and had black stone steps leading up to the black wooden porch. The windows were opaque, so it let light in from the outside, but so opaque that no one could see any forms of movement inside the house. Seeing light inside the house, she deduced that he was probably home. Taking a deep breath to calm her frazzled nerves and dull her present anger, she rang the doorbell. Almost instantly he answered the door. She saw the puzzled smile on his face, but was too angry to be intimidated by him at that time. Good evening, Iago. He gave no answer, just let the smile broaden across his face. She pushed to continue, just to get the encounter over and done with. Look, I appreciate your gifts, but I'm completely capable of taking care of myself, so I regret to inform you that I would have to return your gifts. I bid you a good night. She turned around to leave. Her heart breaking. And had no idea why. She felt so unhappy. You came all this way to tell me that? He asked softly. Yes, I did, she said, her back still facing him. You walked all this way alone? She stopped at the sound of his voice. Anger sated, longing rekindled. She turned to him and struggled to formulate intelligent words. I had to get it off my chest as soon as possible, otherwise I wouldn't be able to sleep tonight. You are an extremely brave young lady. And now I feel like a stupid one, so I'll be going then. She started to leave. Please don't go, Miss James. She felt his hand on her shoulder. How had he reached her so fast? She turned around and looked up into his deep, dark eyes. I apologize for invading your privacy. It was extremely wrong of me, and I apologize for assuming that I could buy your affections. I simply wanted to get your attention, and I see that what I did was not the way for a complicated being such as yourself. Please come in so that I can apologize in an appropriate manner. He held out his hand to her, and after hesitating for a moment, she took it and allowed herself to be led inside. He set her on a well-upholstered, upright chair and excused himself for a moment. Looking around the spacious room, she guessed that the house might have been extremely old and might have passed down through many generations. She had never seen architecture like that before. The stone walls and floors gleamed with polish, and the walls had the most intricate and delicate tapestry hanging on them. The furniture shone with care and most probably a touch of varnish and polish as well, as she thought. She stroked the wooden portion of the armrest and enjoyed the smoothness. On each of the walls were torches aflame, and she thought it strange that he would not have electricity coursing through the house. The fire was possibly for effect, she thought, and guessed that somewhere in the house there were power supply points for usage. Behind her, a soundless fire, yet bright and warm as a real one. A gas fire? She guessed. Above the large stone fireplace was a painting of a man that looked exactly like him, surrounded by a golden frame. She smiled. She supposed every man had his ego, yet she desperately wanted to steal the painting and hang it in her room, so she would have him always near her. "That is a picture of my late father." Oh, she jumped in fright and almost knocked the glasses out of his hands. "I'm sorry," she apologized. "No drops spilled, so no harm done." "I thought that was a painting of you." "Many do. He was my late father, a really gentle but ruthless man." "Gentle but ruthless? That doesn't make any sense at all. You do realize that, don't you?" "Well, gentle towards others, ruthless towards me," he explained. "Here, this one's for you." He held out a slim glass with dark, thick liquid inside. "I don't consume unknown substances," she said frankly. "That is an excellent practice. But in this case, I believe you need this. This drink will not only calm you, but will help you sleep tonight." "I don't need help sleeping," she replied stubbornly. "Really? The darkness around your eyes proves otherwise." Reluctantly, she took the glass from him. It was warm to the touch and quite thick in consistency. His eyes danced in the firelight, and he had that amused look on his extremely handsome face. She slowly took a small sip, avoiding his gaze. The liquid was sweet, with chocolate and nutmeg mixture, but bitter as well, and the burning in her throat screamed of an alcoholic substance. She scrunched her face and suppressed a cough, causing him to roar with laughter. "I see that my draft does not please you," he said amusingly. "I didn't expect the alcoholic part of it, that's all. I usually don't drink." "I see." He was looking at her intensely, almost as if to read her thoughts, which was quite unsettling to her. She moved a few steps away and broke eye contact. "So, as I said, I'll have to give everything back to you." "I won't look very good in an evening gown and heeled shoes." "It is a matter of pride and principle, sir." "Sian," he said. His expression seemed to be pleading with her. Take it as a gift of my appreciation for you. You have courage and tenacity. I have never met a woman like you before, and I would really like to get to know you. I would like to get to know myself too. No other clues about who you were or are? Nothing. He walked towards her and stared down into her eyes, hands placed gently on her shoulders. Maybe it's better this way. Maybe it's time to make new memories. He stroked her cheek again. Tearing herself away from what she desperately wanted, she moved away from him and set the glass down on the table. I thank you for your gifts and hospitality, but I must be going. It'll be dark soon, and I don't really feel like tripping on a log and scraping my knee. You could always stay here, he mused. That is a tempting offer. She stared at him as he walked towards her and took her hand. You won't regret it. I promise you that. He kissed her hand lightly and she became lightheaded. I need solitude at the moment. I desperately need to think. About what? Nothing is that important that you can't think about tomorrow. I'm not sure that I want to, but I need to be alone, she said. The pain in leaving him ripped at her heart. She almost couldn't bear to say the words. When will I see you again? He asked. Sian smiled, delighting in the fact that he wanted to see her too. I'll see you tomorrow night, I promise. Maybe then you can tell me more about yourself. She turned to leave. Even though her heart broke, leaving would be the best decision at that moment. She was staring at the entrance of a rabbit hole that was ever threatening to pull her down, and no matter how much she wanted to fall into it, knowing that there was danger at the other end, prevented it. So she reasoned that the best path to take was simply walking away. Goodbye, Iago, she whispered, closing her eyes, soaking in the last of his essence. She walked out to the main door and expected to hear the heavy door close behind her. What she didn't expect was footsteps after that sound. And you thought that I was going to let you walk home in the dark by yourself. I am quite capable of taking care of myself, thank you. I'm sure that you are. I do, however, wish to spend more time with you, so I'll be joining you on your walk. She smiled. I'd actually like that. They walked side by side without saying a word, enjoying the sounds of the night. A cool breeze blew, and Sian stiffened slightly with the cold, intent not to let him see, but after a few moments his coat slipped over her shoulder. She hung on to it, soaking in the heat and his scent, becoming drunk with it. In her opinion, the walk couldn't last long enough, but was bitterly disappointed when it ended at Rose's door. "Thank you for walking me," she said, trying to avoid his eyes, and slipped the coat off her shoulders and handed it back to him. "I believe that this belongs to you. Please keep it. It will give me an excuse to come and fetch it if you don't honor your promise to see me tomorrow." He lifted her chin and looked into her eyes. "Until tomorrow, my dear lady." Sian gasped softly as he kissed her lightly, then turned to leave. She watched him secretly until he was out of sight, and only then did she turn around and enter through the main door. The house was quiet, and Sian assumed that Rose had already retired, so she made her way to her bedroom, tiptoeing soundlessly. After showering, she wrapped herself in his coat and curled up in her bed. Breathing in his scent, she smiled. She couldn't wait until she saw him again. Maybe Rose was right. Maybe she was in love. She couldn't be sure, but what she was sure of was that the warm tingling throughout her body whenever she thought of him felt incredible. After a short while, she fell asleep, mumbling his name repeatedly to herself. And that was the first night